And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, Donald Trump is surging towards the GOP nomination after winning 7 states during Super Tuesday. And following his strong performance, Trump says he is the candidate who can bring the Republican Party all together. Take a look.
I am a unifier. I would love to see the Republican Party and everybody get together and unify. And when we unify, there's nobody that's going to beat us.
Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Herman Cain, Fox News senior correspondent Geraldo Rivera, and from the Washington Times, Fox News contributor Monica Crowley is with us. Herman Cain, let's start with last night. And I think if you add it 2 ways, if you agree with me that Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are the insurgent candidates, that is 10 for Trump, that's 4 for Cruz, and 1 for Marco Rubio. That's 14 insurgency wins. And you now see the reaction from the establishment. What is your take?
My take is the establishment thought 4 months ago that Trump was going to flame out. Well, he didn't. He got stronger. And so the establishment, I believe, is acting insane and irresponsible because now they're in a panic because they can't control Trump. So now they do want to get behind Marco Rubio. There's nothing wrong with trying to promote the person that you want to support. The problem I have, Sean, is that they also simultaneously want to try and stop somebody else. The American people who voted for Trump have spoken. Let it play out. If he's the nominee, they ought to support the ultimate Republican nominee.
I got in a little bit of a Twitter fight earlier with this Politico guy, Geraldo. And because I went on radio and I said that this is not the Marco Rubio I have known all these years. You know, how many times in his interview with Bret Baier last night and Megyn Kelly last night can he say con artist and fraud and won't denounce the KKK and hired illegal immigrants and misspelled words and the size of his hands? And that's not Marco. To me, it seems like the establishment is putting all this in his head. He's regurgitating it and being somebody that he's not. That's not my take on it. Your thoughts?
First of all, I have big hands. Marco Rubio clearly took on the role as attack dog. Marco Rubio became what Chris Christie did to him. Chris Christie destroyed Marco Rubio's candidacy.
But is this the real Marco?
But Chris Christie paid the price.
Himself. Don't you think?
I don't know. I'm not a shrink. I don't care. I only know what I see. Marco Rubio tried to take down Trump. And indeed, if you analyze the results last night, I think Donald Trump underperformed. Now, Marco Rubio was effective in some of these attacks, but at the same time, Marco Rubio destroyed his own character. He made himself smaller than he is, than he could be. He, I think, eliminated any chance that he'll be the nominee. So Donald Trump, as a result of Marco Rubio's attacks, underperformed, but still he is triumphant, no doubt about it.
I think there's influence, Monica Crowley. I think there's influence coming from outside. I think he's being fed this, probably promised a lot of money. I don't think this is the Marco that we have known. And, you know, except for comprehensive immigration, a lot of people respected. And to me, it's almost like a kamikaze mission. You know, what is Mitt Romney going to say tomorrow? What's all that about? Everyone that supported Mitt Romney, what, now they're all going to blow up the party because they so hate the insurgency?
Yeah, I mean, the establishment has been in panic mode for a long time about Donald Trump, and only now are they starting to get really serious about it. And so they've decided that Marco Rubio is probably their best shot at retaining control of the party apparatus. Because remember, they hate Donald Trump, but they fear him more because they can't control him. So I think. But
they hate Cruz too. Let's be honest.
Well, of course they hate Ted Cruz, of course, because he's blowing up the whole system too. But I think with Rubio, in what he's done over the last week or so, I think the calculation is that the only way you have any chance of trying to take Donald Trump down is by mirroring him, by mocking him, dismissing him the way he's done with so many other candidates, from Jeb Bush to Marco Rubio to Ted Cruz, that you've got to fight him on his own territory. The problem is Donald Trump is the master of this game, and you can't beat the master at his own game.
And if anything, Herman Cain, Donald Trump showed a side of himself last night. I'm speaking objectively here, I'm not taking sides in this. But Donald Trump showed a side of him that was very different last night. You could even use the word presidential in the way he approached. He was magnanimous when it comes to Ted Cruz and his victories, how tough it is to run for president. You know, and what I'm watching here is the kitchen sink, scorched earth, MMA, bare-knuckle brawl, thermonuclear attacks. And where does this go tomorrow night during the debate, Herman Cain?
Well, I agree with you I saw a different Donald Trump through the eyes of the lens of the media last night when he did sound more presidential. He sounded conciliatory. He sounded calmer. He even touched on some specific substance items, which I thought came across real well. This is exactly the same thing that I heard from a lot of my callers and listeners to my radio show today. Now, where does this go tomorrow during the debate? We will just have to wait and see. Because, as you know, Ben Carson, who has announced that he won't be there, has called for more civility. Let's see whether or not Marco Rubio is going to continue the attack dog approach that you talked about, which I think that's just not his character. And I think that makes him seem smaller by trying to continue to go down that road. And then let's see what happens tomorrow. It's a big unknown.
Geraldo, I don't think it's a big unknown. I might disagree. I think this is going to be an MMA, bare knuckles, bloody brawl tomorrow, and they're going to try and take Trump out in one punch. It's a Hail Mary.
I agree. I don't know why you're giving Marco Rubio the benefit of the doubt. He was such a little snot-nose in this attack on Trump. Trump, on the other hand, I have to say, as a person who considers him a friend, I love Donald Trump. He profoundly disappointed me, Sean, with that whole KKK David Duke thing. Now, don't tell me about the disavowals and all the rest of it. I started interviewing
Geraldo. He did it
David
back in
Duke
August.
in June.
He did it on social media. He
June
did it on
1976.
100 times,
June
Geraldo.
1970. Let me just give me one sentence. June 1976, I first interviewed David Duke at a cross burning outside of New Orleans. I've known this guy for over 40 years. He is a disgusting...
He's a racist punk.
Low-down and dirty racist pig.
How many times do you have
to say it? So there should be no... Why did Donald Trump allow even equivocation? Why did he allow this discussion?
Geraldo,
why didn't he say, with the power that he has,
that is not
with
accurate.
The power that he has, that David Duke is scum.
He
has no place in American society.
He said it on Friday.
Not only
he said it on social media all weekend. Geraldo, you're not being fair.
For the fact that he allowed, why didn't he condemn David Duke with the same vigor that he condemns the Chicago gangbangers or ISIS, because that's where David Duke resides.
Okay, to bring it back to what's going to happen tomorrow night at the Fox News debate, look, Marco Rubio is constantly trying to bait Donald Trump into mutual combat on territory that they both understand, mocking, dismissing, ridiculing. My advice to Donald Trump is don't take the bait, because if you start taking the bait and falling into the trap, now you're fighting on the same ground.
Now
what Trump did yesterday,
that's not in his nature, though.
Yes, but what he did yesterday, first of all, he called a press conference rather than doing a campaign rally. Very smart. He took questions from the press. His demeanor was a lot calmer, more presidential. I think if he proceeds that way, he'll end up calming a lot of the fears that a lot of people might have about Trump and his demeanor and how he carries himself going forward. Is he presidential? I think he took a big step toward that last night. So if the others want to engage in a brawl tomorrow, my advice to Donald Trump is fight back when necessary. Defend yourself, but don't necessarily take the bait.
Watch the cadence and tone.
Deny the others the ability to drag you in.
All right, Herman, real quick, because we got to go.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Monica entirely, and that is, if he keeps that same demeanor that he had last night in that press conference, he will rise above all of the bickering that's going to take place, as well as all of the attacks that are definitely going to come against him tomorrow night.
All right, guys, thank you all. Geraldo, I'm going to have you back on this because we need to have an argument.